Our Teen Brains, and it's an initiative started by me. So in eighth grade, actually, I got really interested into neuroscience, and I started reading more about the brain, understanding like all the intricacies, because I was preparing also for this test called the Brain Bee, which high schoolers take. It's about the brain, and so
Uh-huh.
in eighth grade, I couldn't take the Brain Bee, but I still read like the book and all the materials, and
Uh-huh.
I also took place in a debate tournament at that time. So there's this
Uh-huh.
Lincoln Douglas debate, and one of the topics for the debate was, should adolescents have the right to have their own medical autonomy? And so from there, I started learning about when they're talking about adolescence, the adolescent brain, how it's not fully mature, how we can't make mature decisions. And then that, in a combination with the fact that at the time I was really interested in neuroscience, those two coupled together really got me interested in the teen brain. And then in the last couple of years, starting in my late freshman year and mostly throughout my sophomore year, and now as a junior, I'm continuing it. I've created my organization, Our Teen Brains. I think you may have seen my website and some of my social media pages. And
Yeah.
basically, the goal is to spread awareness about the growing and changing teenage brain to adolescents, caretakers, basically anyone who will affect. It's mostly high school students, first in my community and then to the rest of basically hopefully the nation as well. So I've been giving presentations to people at my school. So I go to parents and then a whole keynote speech to over 1,000 individuals, parents and teenagers alike, about my initiative. And so it's currently expanding. I've got my brother on board, and he's helping me make my website. Not website. I'm sorry, my app. We're still working on that. Hopefully, we'll release it soon. And that's what I've been doing so far.
And what will be on the app?
So the app will basically give like information about the teenage brain. Um,
Okay.
First of all, information on so like kind of neuroscience course, because a lot of people like they know like their brain's changing, but they don't know the neuroscience behind it. Like, okay, this part of the brain is responsible for emotion. This is why teenagers aren't like have emotional issues sometimes. So, and that way, teaching the neuroscience behind what's actually going on will help people understand. Okay, this is a problem that's going on. But then also like talking about several things that happen, like for example, bullying, staying away from bad influences, because your brain is especially malleable, especially easy to be influenced at this time, so you want to stay away from bad influences. So giving information like that, that's what my app is gonna do. It's also gonna be able to connect you with caregivers, which is also something I want to talk to you about as well. So I'll be able to connect them with caregivers to get some more help and guidance, basically.
Okay. All right. Great. And wondering how I can be helpful then.
Yeah, actually, could I also hear a little bit of like what you do, like how
Sure.
you got interested in your background?
Yes. So, I'm a psychologist
Right.
and that, you may know more than most people, but it means I mostly work with people with anxiety and
Hmm.
depression through talk therapy, but I don't prescribe medication. A lot of people get confused about that.
Right.
And so I've been in the mental health field for about 20 years
Mhm.
and been a psychologist for about 10 of those. And so I mostly have been working individually with clients in my office where we are now.
Mhm.
It's usually one on one, or once in a while I'll have a group.
Right.
Uh, but another psychologist and I started recognizing that there's a core set of ways, skills, and knowledge that we teach our clients over and over again.
Mhm.
We talk about individual issues, but then there's this concrete set of things that we think
Right.
everybody could benefit from, like, which is basically what do you do when you have intense emotions, especially when you're a kid,
Right.
and as you like in those teenage years or pre-adolescence when your emotions get really intense.
Definitely.
Now then what do you do? And you're talking about bad influences. What if you can't escape bad influences? What if it's your parents who are abusing you? What if it's sometimes you can't escape the bullies at school, or
Right.
sometimes there's a teacher, like I had a teacher bully me in school.
Mhm.
You can't escape these things. Then what? And how do you still be able to focus and do the things you want to do, hang out with your friends? We also know that adolescence, as you probably already know, is the time when like anxiety and
All
depression
right.
really start to
Definitely.
rise.
Mhm.
In it's like around that 11, 12, 13-year-old time, especially for girls. Girls have
Mhm.
twice the rate of depression as
Right.
boys. And that you see these curves start to rise, but the girls' curve is really steep.
Right.
So we felt like these middle school years are a perfect time to intervene with some of like the neuroscience, like what you're talking about, what's going on in your brain. the fact that it's temporary is really
Right.
important. Not gonna, you might feel awful right now, but this is just for now. It gets better.
Right.
And and then what, how can you help yourself feel better in the moment? Let's say you feel super anxious
Mm-hmm.
and you're in the classroom
Right.
and you can't leave school, where most kids can't. What do you do? How do you handle that? Or what if some stuff's going on that's stressing you out at home, or relationship breakups, all
Right.
kinds of things are going on, right? And for the first time in that period of life, which is, I think, is an amazing period of life. I
It's
really
a
enjoy
critical
looking.
period of life. It's like, right. So that's why it's called like a critical period as well.
Exactly. And so what we did was we created a mental health curriculum,
Mm-hmm.
which is one of the first in the country. Canada has one, and then we have this one.
Right.
So ours, I feel like we're at the forefront of what schools are starting to look for. Several states in the country now, well, I think three now, Florida, they're on the east. Florida, New York, and West Virginia have all required mental health education.
Mm-hmm.
However, there's no curriculum. They're kind
Right.
of piecemealing it together and making it up. And what we've seen New York using is pretty bad.
Mm-hmm.
They're just doing their best, like getting stuff off the
I
internet,
see.
and it's not organized in any way. And psychologists haven't been helping, and
Right.
so it's not their fault. Here we are, the ones with the knowledge, and we're not. We haven't helped, and so Lori and I, Dr. Allen and I, got together and made this curriculum, and it's trauma informed, because over half to 2/3 of children do suffer from trauma.
Right.
So whatever you do in terms of mental health has to
Focus.
acknowledge that it's not about teaching trauma, though. It's not about doing therapy, because we don't want to have teachers be doing therapy in the classroom.
Right.
But it is about having teachers and students be able to reduce the overall stress level in the classroom,
Right.
in their day-to-day lives.
And
So
that's actually really interesting because I was actually starting to reach out to my local mayor and my local congressman Rokana about having like this possibility where, because like also I was thinking that schools should also definitely talk about mental health and the teenagers, but I wanted to add like a small neuroscience aspect, like what I'm talking about, that so that teenagers understand, okay, my it's not just that my brain is changing, this is why I'm feeling this way, this is why I'm more likely to feel sad, but rather that this region of the brain is causing, like there's more myelin that's growing at this time, which makes like which is causing this imbalance. Or there's this region of the brain, like my prefrontal cortex, especially, that's an important one, is developing, which is why I'm not able to control my emotions. So like giving that's what I was also interested in doing, is like getting this kind of curriculum in, but also combining the mental health and like psychology portion with the neuroscience portion, getting like a combination, so there's like a
exactly.
cause and effect understanding.
Exactly. So I don't think we may not go into it in as much detail as you do, but in each of our 12 lessons, we include an anatomy and physiology that
Right.
includes neuroscience and the vagus nerve, and
Mm-hmm.
probably add a section on the gut brain, the
Right.
circuit, and all these things that affect your emotions and what's going on. And in psychology, we have terms like, your brain flips. You might have seen that. It's called flipping your lid, like your
Mm-hmm.
prefrontal cortex goes offline,
Right.
the limbic system takes over.
Mm-hmm.
But a nice, non-judgy way to put it is, your brain flips, my
Right.
brain flips. We all have brain flip, and using mindfulness to recognize, oh, my
Right.
brain's flipping right now. That means I need to do one of these skills.
Right.
And then they have skills. So we take a really positive, health focus, not here's, like, a lot of what is available in health is here are the symptoms of depression and blah blah blah. And here
Okay.
are these symptoms of anxiety. And so it's very illness pathology focused, which is, good information to have.
Right.
But the
Mm-hmm.
problem is when you read all these symptoms, then you feel like you have everything, like
Oh,
I
right.
did when I was
Yeah.
in grad school. Like, oh my gosh, I have that one and that one and that one. And it doesn't tell you what to do about it
Right.
either. We feel like what you're saying, mental health is really important to know how to take up. Just like we get taught to brush our teeth and
Yes.
we get taught
Mm-hmm.
to exercise in school. I think teaching mental health from a really health perspective is important,
And
and not in a
mostly
way that
focused towards like high schoolers, correct? Like the curriculum you're planning?
yeah. So we have one. It's already planned.
Yeah.
It's the first version is ages 8 to 14,
8 to
so it covers like younger kids. It's
Mm-hmm.
not as advanced in terms of like the neuroscience and stuff, but it
Right.
has some of the basics like here's the amygdala, here's the prefrontal cortex, this is what they do for
Yeah.
you, this is what happens when you get hijacked by your emotions. So simpler versions of I think what you talk
Right.
about to older kids in
Right.
high school, like the 10th, 11th, 12th grades.
Mm-hmm.
This is more like probably like 4th through
8th,
9th grade
8th, 9th.
curriculum. Yeah.
Great.
And so far the kids really like it. We got a grant to work in a middle school in rural Oregon. Oregon is very different than California. We're
Right.
very rural.
Yeah,
We
I've
have the
been there
control of,
once. Yeah.
oh, you've been here? Where have you
Once.
been?
So I remember we went through Portland. I don't
Uh-huh.
remember where exactly, but we went hiking in one place. I
Uh-huh.
forgot where. I think it was like somewhere towards the outskirts of Portland, but we were on like a road trip, so we did drive through most of like the coast of Oregon, basically.
Oh, cool. Yeah, so you saw a lot of small towns
Right.
and
It was definitely much more rural than where I live in California.
yeah. And then the coast even, I mean, has a little more to
Mm-hmm.
it because it's on the coast, like it's a tourist destination.
Right.
But if you go more inland,
Oh.
it's kind of
Mm-hmm.
like the Midwest where it's very poor,
Oh.
very low income,
Mm-hmm.
very white, mostly white.
Mm-hmm.
There's a Indian couple reservations, some reservations, but culturally it's really, really conservative and really
Right.
different, other than Portland and
For,
Eugene, where I live.
yeah.
So we wanted something that could work nationwide in very conservative rural areas,
Right.
and there is a lot of pushback right now
Mm-hmm.
around mindfulness and Christianity and how.
Yeah.
So we've been careful around that as well. So I think it's promising that if it works in a small rural Oregon town, that we can
Should
share it with
expand.
other
Right.
states. So right now, what we have in development is the book here. The book
Tune. Right.
is manual one. It's a tune ed.
A tune ed. Mm-hmm.
And we're finishing manual two, which is the second half of the lessons, and publishing that. And then the whole thing is being was awarded a grant through.
Oh, wow.
Do you know what SBIRs are?
SBI.
So kids can get this online, and teachers can do this in rural areas where they don't have a lot of access to support.
Wait, so out
So
of curiosity, is this grant like, is there like a restriction that you have to be a nonprofit organization before getting this grant, like an official 501c3?
no, actually, the beauty of the grant is you don't have to.
Oh, okay.
It's actually many of the recipients are for profit.
Oh, okay.
Like the high suicide rates
Yeah.
and
Especially,
anxiety.
I know here in the Bay Area, one of the schools, Gun High School, has one of like the highest suicide rates in the nation. And like over
Seriously.
here, it's like a really big issue.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, we had a spate of suicides in Eugene. Fortunately, it was 2 years ago and it hasn't repeated.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, everyone's in a panic
Right.
around how to do this. And we don't want to be part of the panic. We want to do this in a really methodical
Right.
way this is about taking care of your mental health every day, not about
Exactly.
responding to a crisis.
Right. Totally fine. But like a couple of questions which I want to talk about, like what can high school students personally do to manage their mental health? Because like a lot of people they know that they should talk to a caregiver, someone, a teacher, but a lot of them they feel like concerned that okay, this person might not take me seriously, but maybe through personal experiences, or they're afraid that they just don't want to take it out because it's really you feel really vulnerable, right, when you expose these secrets to other people. So what can high school students do to maybe get more confident explaining them, or other things they can do to manage their mental health and stress levels, anxiety?
Well, I like what you said about if someone feels like they're really suffering from depression or anxiety, then definitely, having a trusted adult around, it may or may not be a parent, it might be a teacher, the school counselor, or a friend that they trust.
Mm-hmm.
So all schools should have a set of resources. It can be hard because I know a lot of schools don't have enough, like counselors and psychologists. But if there's a trusted adult, I highly recommend sharing information and asking for help. And one thing that I think is important to know before I don't often just say go tell somebody, because it's important to know that school staff are most of them are required. That's called required reporters, mandated reporters. That's what it is. So they're mandated reporters. So like if you tell them you're feeling suicidal, they have to tell somebody.
I
Or if you
see.
tell them you're gonna hurt. So it's you want to keep these things in mind as you
Right.
share what you if someone's going to share. At the same time, I'm certainly all for getting help.
Right. And advice would you have for caretakers, parents, teachers, and counselors?
In terms of helping
Yeah,
teens.
helping them. Yeah.
So what I gave before in terms of responding to, I was assuming you're asking, like, what if someone's feeling really
Right.
awful?
Mm-hmm.
So you think of health in like a public health triangle. So
Mm-hmm.
the base of the triangle is the biggest base. That would be pretty much all of us. That's the universal
Right.
model. So the skills that in a tune ed that Dr. Allen and I came up with are things that we think work at a universal level, are things like healthy diet and exercise
Right.
that everybody should know. So that for us, that's like the foundation of having um, really good mental health and
Right.
mental wellness and maximize that. And that includes, it doesn't have to be meditating, that includes mindfulness activities, knowing your body, having a good relationship with yourself. And then from there, having a good relationship with other people.
Right.
Once you have skills to manage your own emotions. So we
Yeah.
organize it that way. And then that mid tier, what you're like, somebody's feeling like, those skills just aren't enough, those day to day things. Because sometimes like we need to go to the doctor instead of just managing on our own.
Right. Definitely. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So there's still a lot of stigma around seeking help, but
Yeah.
hopefully that's getting better. I'm noticing it loosening up around younger
Definitely.
people.
Yeah.
I think it's fantastic. The younger people I work with in my practice seem a lot more comfortable in therapy
More
than
open.
the older people are,
Right.
which is really great to see.
Right.
So I encourage trying to find that kind of help
Right.
if that's needed.
Great.
And that's something I think an adult can help figure out.
Yeah. Great. So
Our vision is to not just have teachers deliver this in classrooms, but we think it would be way more effective and powerful if teens could teach each other
Right.
these skills and use this kind of language, like know what to call it when something, they're get hijacked by their emotions,
Right.
or we call it being outside your window tolerance,
Right.
Which is a term another psychiatrist, Dan Siegel, came up with. Anyhow, to answer your question, yeah, no, thank you. And one of my questions for you was like, how, if you have ideas on how we would get like kids to
Collaboration.
teach
Right.
each other these things and make this kind of information just part of everyday talking.
Right. And I'm actually trying to reach out to like local government officials, like mayors and the local congressmen, to see if they could maybe work on something and get this thing implemented in schools. Because even if it's like not like an official class, even like if it's like a small, like during homeroom for 15 minutes, out of 15 minutes, it's like even 5 minutes every day just talking about it. Like even those small things could help individuals. So if there's something like a way we could get this implemented, that's what I was really interested in doing. And then a collaboration with you guys would definitely improve that, considering there's already a curriculum you guys have made, a tune ed, which would be really, really helpful as well.
Yeah, that's exactly the model we have at Cottage Grove at the rural school that we worked at. Was just the lessons take about 20 minutes each, so they're meant to be short
Right.
and quick, and even that was too much time to take out of a class. So what the health teacher did was split it in half. So one day the first 10 minutes would be like the neuroscience and the mental health background, and then the next day would be practicing the skills, and that worked out fine.
Right.
So some of it's like, but yeah, I think just taking a little bit time of a health class, homeroom. Here we have flex periods. I don't know if your schools there have those, but like it's a free period where you can do studies or.
Yeah, our class is online, so like it's not really, there's no really like flex in that way, but we do have a wellness course. And so I've actually given presentations there in the wellness courses about the teenage brain development. But like, for example, I'm gonna graduate in a couple years, and then after that, who knows if another student may present. But if we're able to get this implemented, then it'll be like consistent for for high schoolers, not only in my school but in other schools as well, for basically a long time to come. So that's like something definitely that we could try to push forward for.
Yeah. Well, something, yeah, and since ours is really more for the younger
Hmm.
kids and you're talking more older high schoolers, it would be helpful maybe to get your feedback
Right.
on, is this old enough? Like, it's been a
Yeah.
long time since I was in school, and I know kids these days seem a lot more sophisticated.
Yeah, I can also add maybe some of my aspects. I can share what I have in if you guys want to add, or if you want me to add something as well that could be like slightly different than what you guys have, more targeted towards high schoolers. That could also potentially work.
Yeah, so that's exciting. That
Yeah.
would be cool. Um, yeah, so Lori is in Hawaii right now.
Okay.
She's not work on a she's helping a friend on a work vacation. So she'll be back in a week or so
So then we can
to
follow up on email. That would be wonderful.
yeah, we can stay in touch. Do I have your email? I know I have your Facebook, but email is
Yeah,
actually easier
I'll
to get.
type in my email into the chat.
Okay, cool. Thanks. Can I do that? I'm not that great at Facebook. I mean at Skype. Uh,
Um, right there.
oh, got it. Thanks. How did
Great.
you do that?
You just on the side there's the
Huh?
button with like the line, and it says open conversation.
Oh yeah, I see that.
Right.
Okay, cool. Well, here's mine. Wait. But so something else we want to do, you talked about, you're basically lobbying. We want to talk, we met with a fundraiser from the who does all the fundraising for UVO,
Mm-hmm.
and he said, you know, his advice was this is something that districts and government, state governments should pay for,
Right.
which sounds like similar to what you're thinking. And so we hope to be talking to the Oregon state legislature
Oh,
at some point,
that's
and
great.
you know, I think at some point in the next 5 years, maybe I mean, all the states are going to be requiring mental health
Right.
in their schools, and it's important to tie it to like the Common Core standards,
Right.
which are, you know, you may or may not like them, but that's what they are.
Yeah.
And so to map those on, absolutely, yeah. Thanks for all you're doing. I really think what you're doing is
Thank you
super
too.
exciting.